Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Tanzilla. I hope you're all keeping well. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the one book that changed my habits and my way of thinking, and those small changes in habits and those small actions we do differently every day, compounded over the course of weeks and months and years, are what changes our life. So it's quite an important book, and it's this one called The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. And if you don't know who Jack Canfield is, he is the co-creator of the Chicken Soup series, which was very popular in the early 2000s. He's also a motivational speaker and also an entrepreneur. And in this book, he details out the actions and steps he takes to be successful and the guiding principles that he follows. So I first read this book when I was actually in grade 9, so when I was 14 years old. So now I'm 25 years old, and the principles still resonate with me. This book really highlights that you are in the driver's seat and you have the power to change your life, and really goes down into the nitty-gritty of how you can do that. This book is not just theoretical stuff for, the entirety of the 500 pages. It does break down step by step of things you can do, and this book has a lot of exercises in terms of identifying your purpose, and also getting clear on your vision and sort of goal setting techniques, so you can actually derive some actionable stuff from this book. So I can't say enough great stuff about it, but in this video I'm just going to break down a few key themes that were explored in this book, and just some of my tidbits and thoughts about it as well. So let's dive right into the first overarching theme, which states that you need to take 100% responsibility for your life, and that is for the good and the bad. So in certain situations, whether they turn out favorable or unfavorable, it is important to think back and analyze the actions that you took to get to this point. If they're good, then that's great, and to repeat those actions. And if you looked at the actions and you saw that it results in a bad outcome, it's to change those actions. So he really makes you see that you have, not always, but you sometimes do have control on the outcome. The second thing he talks about, his formula, which is event plus response is equal to an outcome. Even though we can't control what happens to us sometimes, we can control how we react to it, and that's eventually going to determine our outcome, right? Life obviously has a lot of difficulties and hardships that come about, but if the event was the only thing that mattered, then people would not, so many people would not have been successful. And so he really stresses that, and he gives a lot of examples in the book, but I'll talk about three that don't believe are in the book, but I just wanted to speak about them with you just to highlight that point a little bit further in terms of facing adversities in life and knowing that life is not always fair and we're not always dealt the same cards, but making the most of the hand we've been dealt. So of course, one of the biggest examples that comes to mind is Stephen Hawking. He was diagnosed with ALS when he was 21, and he needed a wheelchair and a voice synthesizer to speak. But that didn't stop him from becoming one of the most influential figures in science. Another example is Frida Kahlo. She's a really renowned painter and most well known for her self-portraits. And she was actually diagnosed with polio when she was 6. And due to the illness, she developed a limp on her right leg, I believe. And because of that, she was obviously bullied when she was younger. And then in her adolescence, she was in a very bad bus accident, and that left her, bedridden for a very long time, and she suffered through really horrific pains for most of her life. But she still became one of the most, iconic painters of the 20th century. And another one that's close to my heart is Jim Carrey. So when Jim Carrey was 15, he dropped out of school to take care of his family, and his family soon after was living in a van. He still didn't give up on his dreams, and he wanted and continued to pursue his dream of becoming an actor and a comedian, and that ended up working out for him. So that's basically the main point that Jack Canfield is trying to get across it. You know, it is, of course, some things are very difficult and hard to get past very quickly, but you know, whenever you are able to, it's always how you react to the situation, that unfavorable situation, and how you turn that into your strength, or just move past it, or try to have it hurt a little less, and that's what affects the outcome. Take that ownership, because when you give yourself that power, then you have that power to change your life. If you're always blaming circumstances, you will never be able to get that power for yourself to change your life. So I think that's one of the largest principles I've taken, to always take responsibility for where I am. And of course people play into that, but to always have the onus on myself to improve my situation. And on the topic of developing these habits, and the event and response, is he really talks a lot about habits, right? And I think there's this one great quote. It says that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And I don't think I could have said it better. It's the habits we do every day. We sleep at 3 a.m., we wake up at 11 a.m., and, you know, have lunch at 3 p.m., and, you know, watch TV for 5 hours. And somehow we expect that something is going to happen and somehow we're going to be successful. And we really need to look at our daily habits, and what we're doing every day to get towards our goal. And that saying really resonated with me. It's like, okay, if I want a better life, I have to change my habits. Next one is 99% is hard, 100% is easy. So what does this statement mean? So Jack Canfield basically states that it is much harder to commit halfway or 90% or 99% to something than to be all in. When you're not all in, it breaks down your willpower. For example, if you're 99% sure that you want to work out at the gym, so every day when you wake up, you will have this inner decision making about whether to go to the gym or not, and that will eat away. We only have a certain amount of brain power every day to make those a certain amount of willpower, and it's like a muscle that gets tired after a while. So if you're debating with yourself, eventually you will give up. So instead, if you make that point that you're going to work out every single day and you leave yourself no choice, it has to happen. There's no decision making. When you wake up in the morning, you know exactly what you're doing. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. If it's, you know, raining outside, storming outside, gyms are closed, you'll still, you know, do an at-home workout, you know, put on a YouTube video and work out to that. So he basically states, if you're going to commit to something, if you're going to do something, do it 100%. 99% is harder. And then he talks a lot about purpose. So everything you say, do, and think needs to be aligned to a broader reason or a broader purpose. And I think it's very important to be clear on that purpose and on that vision. And I think it's picturized in a really great way when you think of a global positioning system. So the GPS, if you don't put an address of your end destination, it won't have anywhere to take you. So similarly, it'll just, you know, keep, you know, turning you around and looping you back to, you know, home, or just will not take you anywhere. And that's similar to when you go through your days without direction and without a clear vision in mind about what you want, because you'll be doing several X, Y, Z, but they'll all be taking you in different directions. So it really helps to be crystal clear, similar to in a GPS. It finds, when you type in the address of your destination, it finds you the shortest and quickest way to get there, right? So if you focus on one thing, take you through the path of least resistance. Not saying there won't be obstacles, but at least you'll be focusing all your attention to that one thing. And Jack Canfield has a lot of great exercises in the book, really clarifying your vision, your life's purpose. Even if you're not clear on your purpose, or you're like, what does that even mean? I'm too young, and things like that. So it did really help me when I was in grade 9. And it was really interesting because I look back to what I wrote in grade 9 about when I did the exercise about my purpose, and it was nice to look back on it, because Now, I would say I still do believe in what I wrote back then my purpose was. So even if you're not sure, if you think you're too young, try it out. It somehow managed to get those things out of you, and to really see what you're good at, and what you wanted, what you're good at, what you hope to do for others, and how do you want to serve others. And it has you do like a nice purpose statement. So definitely try it out in the book. So another kind of point he speaks about is to fail forward. So when you do fail, pick up the dust, brush it up, take the feedback from it, and move forward. And he does this great analogy of failing forward, where even if you do fall, you'll be better off than if you had not started at all. And I think this is a great point. I think we're oftentimes so scared of rejection, and we'll do anything and even take ourselves out of the race to not fail, that we're missing out on so many opportunities. So he really encourages you to fail, because one of the greatest ways I can kind of picturize this for you is with the example of Thomas Edison. So Thomas Edison actually failed somewhere between 1,000 to 10,000 times before he invented the light bulb. Can you imagine trying something 10,000 times? Like, I feel like I would probably give up by like the 10th try, if I'm being honest, right? So he never did. And he had this motto, I think was his quote, where he said, "I have not failed 1,000 times, 10,000 times. I have found 10,000 ways that won't work." So you're closer to the one way that will. And he did find it, and he was successful because he did not give up and he kept failing forward. We need to try more things, put ourselves out there, and not be afraid to fail. And I need to take this advice myself. So then he talks a lot about goal setting and has a lot of exercises for you to really get clear on your goals and develop smart and actionable goals, and those are measurable. And another thing he talks about is to have high intention and low attachment. So he basically states that, be very intentioned, be action oriented, to the things you need to get done in order to achieve your goal, but don't be attached to your goal. If you're too attached, it's gonna be all consuming, and if things don't work out, it'll of course take a really hard hit on you if you're super attached. So just be lower attached to the outcome. I've always found when I really want something, I sometimes falter through nerves or things like that, and the times where I do perform well, let's say in an example of a job interview, is when I don't have as much skin in the game, I don't care as much, I already have a job, but I just went in for the interview because I wanted to see how well I would do. And those are the interviews where I don't prepare as much, or I'm not as afraid or nervous. Those are the ones I do as well, because I just have lower attachment, lower nerves. So it's always about putting your best foot forward, but not being attached to the outcome. Act as if you've already received your goal. And the way this is exemplified and illustrated in the book is, he talks about this bank he always goes to, and all the tellers are dressed up in regular pants and shirts, but there's this one teller who always wears suits and ties, and he's dressed to the nine, his hair gel back, etc. So, and then the next year he comes and he sees that teller has been promoted to a financial services manager, and the next year he sees that he's in a higher position. And the year after, he is promoted to a branch manager. So he finally approaches the teller, and he asks him about this. And the teller states that he always wanted to, he always knew that he was going to be a branch manager and that he wanted to be that. So he looked at the way his branch manager dressed, acted, and the responsibilities he had and how he conducted himself, and he emulated that. He looked at success and he replicated that. And another theme that's explored in this book is that success leaves clues. So in this instance, he looked at the way his branch manager acted and replicated that. And this book really stresses action and also encourages you to dream big. It says, and I'll quote this actually, it says, "If you look at only what is possible, you limit yourself, and all that is left is a compromise." And I think that's beautiful. So many things that have been created that, you know, shattered our perception of what is possible. So I think it's great that he emphasizes that we need to dream big. So last 2 points are about limiting TV watching and reading more books. So I used to watch a lot of TV back in high school, used to be a binge watcher, and I think this statistic really sealed the deal for me. So I'll read it out to you verbatim. 1 second. Yeah, so they says the average American watches 6 hours of TV per day, and by 60, they would have wasted 15 years or a quarter of their life. And cutting down 1 hour of TV per day gives you 365 hours back in a year. So just let that muddle in your head, and yeah, so you will be saving a lot of time. So that wraps up my review of the book and the summary. It has so many nuggets of wisdom. It's 500 plus pages, I believe, of pure value. So it's a book that changed my habits, it's a book that changed my life, and I will always refer back to it. Even 10 years later, it is as relevant as ever. And he talks about a wide spectrum of topics such as, you know, health, family, business, financials, and goal setting, purpose, and you know, it's all over in terms of spectrum. And I definitely suggest you pick it up and really learn for yourself these success principles outlined in this book. And again, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one.